This is the pharmaphorum podcast. My name is Dominic Tyre and I'm pharmaphorum's creative and editorial director. Joining me for episode 24 is Gitte Aabo, who last year joined hearing aid technology firm GN Hearing as CEO. Prior to that, she spent 27 years at LEO Pharma, ending her time there as its president and CEO. We discuss telemedicine, GN Hearing's work in this area, Gitte's time at LEO Pharma, and, somewhat inevitably, the impact of COVID-19. You can find more details of this episode, including a download link for the podcast and information about other instalments in the series at pharmaphorum.com/podcast. The Pharmaphorum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher and Podbean, where you can find and subscribe to it by searching for Pharmaphorum. So, Gitte, welcome to the Pharmaphorum podcast.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure our listeners and certainly our readers at Pharmaphorum probably know you best from your time at LEO Pharma. You were with the company, of course, for 27 years, 11 of those as CEO. Must have been certainly a very interesting time. We've noted at Pharmaphorum how the company progressed from a small European pharmaceutical company to a leading global player in dermatology. So how would you sum up your time at LEO Pharma?
Well, as you just pointed out, it certainly was a very interesting time. And I think, and I continue to think that LEO is an amazing company that brings really great treatments to the market within skin diseases. I think one of the things that really stand out for me at my time at LEO was that we kind of changed our perspective on the world from being, looking at the world from standing in the labs and thinking that we've made the best medicine ever and wondering why everybody weren't using it exactly as we intended, to combine that sort of scientific knowledge with a profound understanding of patients and their needs, and to a much larger extent, developing treatments in LEO that took into account also usability and making it easy for people to treat themselves. I mean, many skin diseases are chronic diseases where you kind of have to treat yourself every day. So, that profound understanding of patient's needs or customer needs is and the changed focus that meant throughout the company is probably one of the things that I take with me and that I'm really proud about from my time in LEO.
And do you think that was very much a necessary journey for, well, not just for LEO, but for the wider pharmaceutical industry to go down the path of, I suppose, what we would term patient centricity?
Yeah, and I think it is the case for many companies or many industries, I guess, that has that strong root in science, that technology, that you can master that so well that you kind of almost forget about the customer, the end user. And I think to some extent now at GN Hearing, where we manufacture and sell the best hearing aids in the world, I'm actually kind of re-experiencing some of those issues, because I think, what has made the GN Hearing so successful is the ability to master new technologies and do that extremely well. But yet, in order to, deeply understand the needs of our end user, we still have quite a long way to go.
And so in addition to taking more note, bringing the patient's viewpoint into the company whilst you were at LEO more directly, what sort of other changes did you see? I'm thinking perhaps we've seen the rise of digital health over that time, the important changes in the way companies and individuals communicate. What's really stood out for you whilst you were leading LEO Pharma?
Yeah, at LEO, we actually made quite a big bet into the digital space with the establishment of LEO Innovation Lab, And again, I think one of the things that is, when you look at the patient journey within skin diseases, generally speaking, it can be quite hard to diagnose a skin disease. And then when you come to the GP office with your skin disease, we actually learned that in 50% of cases, people get a wrong diagnosis, which obviously also often leads to a wrong treatment. And then you kind of have the whole misery of people, trying out the treatment, it doesn't work, and so on. So, the ability to better diagnose and enhance the communication between patient and doctor was actually something that we invested in quite a lot in LEO Innovation Lab at the time, developing tools where you could basically, by taking a picture of your skin, could provide quite accurate diagnosis of the most common skin diseases like psoriasis and eczema. But in addition to that, also preparing, if you like, or helping preparing the patient to have a better dialogue with their healthcare professionals once they were in office. So I think maybe that's another key take away from my time at LEO, that the digital world really opens up for another way to communicate and learn about needs of the patients to an extent that probably wasn't possible early on.
And of course, your time at LEO Pharma came to an end in the summer of 2019. I wonder, did you have any advice for your successor at the company, or indeed, would you have any advice for anyone else taking a leading role at a pharmaceutical company?
Well, I think one of the privileges you have working in the pharmaceutical space or in healthcare is that you work in an industry where we are truly making a positive difference in people's lives. And I think it's important to always keep that in mind, that we are making treatments that help people and have that focus on the people, so that constantly focusing on what actually works in real life. You can make the most amazing treatment for anyone, but if it's difficult to use, then it'll probably end up in the cupboard in the bathroom and never get used. And then it may be amazing, but it has no impact if it's not used. So, that passion about patients, about making a difference in people's lives, I think that is something we all must always keep in mind when we're working in the healthcare space.
So from LEO Pharma, you have moved to GN Hearing. So it's a company that focuses on smart hearing aids and wireless accessories. What prompted you to join GN Hearing?
Well, actually, when I was still CEO at LEO, I was on the board of GN. And then basically almost at the same time as I stepped down as CEO at LEO, a new CEO was needed at GN Hearing, and it was actually quite an easy decision for me to make to jump into that role, because I felt once again the privilege of leading an organization where we have that strong focus on the customer or the patient, and again making a difference in people's life. I think throughout my career, I've always considering job opportunities, made what I call the mom test. And what I mean by that is this company selling a service or product that I would recommend to my mom? And that was the case at LEO, and it's certainly also the case at GN. In GN even more so, because my mom is actually wearing hearing aids from GN.
And in terms of what the company does, it kind of as we were discussing earlier, it focuses on smart hearing aids. Can you tell me a bit about the range of products and what makes a hearing aid smart?
Well, what makes a hearing aid smart is the ability, first of all, to be easy to use for the user, but also the fact that it can adapt to different environments you're in. So are you sitting at home watching television? Are you at a family dinner? Are you in a conversation with a friend? Are you at a bigger social event? Obviously, these are different situations that you can be in as a person, and the hearing aid must adapt to that.
And continuing that theme of adopted environments, clearly the wider business environment is very different at the moment for all of us around the world in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. How has that impacted GN Hearing's operations and work?
Well, that has had a profound impact on our business. I mean, in terms of sales, actually, when we saw the impact of the societies closing down in Europe and the US mid-March and continuing into Q2, we actually saw the hearing aid market drop with up to 80%. So obviously that had a profound impact on our business. And the irony, I guess, in all of this is that the need to hear is still there, and maybe even more so in a time where people live in social isolation, because as we all know by now, I mean, COVID-19 is especially people above 65, which is also typically the people that use hearing aid. They are also the most at risk for COVID-19. So many of them either are required to social isolate or decide to socially isolate. And then the only way you can stay in contact with your loved ones is actually using the phone or using a computer. And if you can't hear, that actually becomes really difficult. So, the need to hear is still there. And therefore, one of the things we did in GN Hearing was to put a lot of efforts into from our R&D team in order to bring a solution into the market where you can actually remotely do a hearing test and fit a hearing aid. So basically offering the same service to the user that they would normally have to go to the audiologist office to get, they can now get in their own living room.
Okay, so taking you pretty much into the realm of telehealth and telemedicine, can you tell us how that service is progressing at the moment?
Well, I think that when reading some of the analyst reports that come out, they tend to suggest that teleservices and online services, remote services as such, not only within telehealth, but generally speaking, seems to have leapfrogged 5 years ahead now during the COVID-19 situation. And I think also that is the case for telehealth. I think for a number of reasons, actually, because we're also looking at a healthcare system that past COVID-19 will have quite a big backlog in terms of treating a lot of other diseases. And therefore, I think healthcare around the globe is forced to think in new ways of delivering the services, and therefore will have to provide much more in terms of telehealth. So that impacts the broader way healthcare is provided. And I'm sure that will also be the case for audiology. It's clearly needed right now, as I just talked about, the people being in social isolation due to COVID-19. But in general, many elderly people are not that mobile. And many actually do feel more comfortable in their own home. So I think for many elderly people, also past COVID-19, the fact that you can have done a hearing test and get your hearing aid fitted in the comfort of your own home, I'm sure that is the solution that is here to stay.
So it clearly sounds as if we're at an inflection point for telemedicine. And as you say, I think that's likely to take us into the future as that acceleration continues. But if we look to round up this episode of the podcast, perhaps we can look at what your plans are for GN Hearing and what you've got lined up for the future.
As I just mentioned, I mean, we just recently launched ReSound Assist Live, which is a solution that allows us to remotely do a hearing test and fit a hearing aid. And I think that allows the audiologist to provide remote services. And I think that is something that is here to stay. And I think we can only begin to imagine what that entails. I mean, we will also be able to remotely detect, for instance, if your hearing aid needs cleaning, earwax and so on. So we can actually give the user a heads up on that. We will also be able to remotely, if you like, see the batteries running low and so on. So I think you can kind of start to imagine a whole kind of service that you would be able to provide users with at a completely different level than what we are at now. And it's actually part of our strategy to Indian hearing to provide the best possible individualized customer experience. And I think remote services and digitalization is important steps to do exactly that.
It certainly sounds like it will be. So, Gitte, thank you very much for joining me on the pharmaphorum podcast.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
And that concludes episode 24 of the pharmaphorum podcast and my discussion with GN Hearing's Gitte Aabo about telemedicine and lessons from her time in pharma. You can find more details of this episode, including a download link for the podcast and information about other instalments in the series at pharmaphorum.com/podcast. The pharmaphorum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher and Podbean, where you can find and subscribe to it by searching for pharmaphorum. And don't forget to visit our website to sign up for daily or weekly email pharmaceutical news and analysis bulletins, and follow us on Twitter, where we are at pharmaphorum.